I'm really excited today to give you a decision framework. Making decisions is really hard sometimes. And yet, every single day, we're faced with it in business and work and personal and faith. Every moment of every interaction, you're making a choice, you're making a decision. Now, a lot of decisions, not a big deal. Should I go down this way? Should I go that way? We're always making decisions. What I want to do is spend time talking about when you're trying to make an important decision at your work. We have to do it at our firm all the time when we're making decisions when it comes to investments and for investors and for borrowers. We're always looking at choices internally, culturally, people, hiring, firing. I need something simple that I can walk through. And so my hope today is to walk you through a framework of what I call the 4 steps to best decision outcomes, giving you a clear framework of 4 different things you can walk through to get the best outcome. There's no guarantee, but there is at least a good framework to get the most optimal way to make a decision. So let's walk through this together. The first step is motive. Take some time first to be asking the questions, why am I doing this? What is the purpose behind this? What would I like to see at the end of this whole thing? It's important to start off asking yourself that question of what is my motive behind this decision, the why behind the what. It might help you actually step back and say, I just don't need to make the decision at all. And that might save you a lot of headache and a lot of time. In that same quadrant, step 1, I have action. So what do? What do we really want out of this whole thing? Does this misalign with my values, the decision that I'm about to make? Because you might feel this conflict going on, and that can be a stopping point for you as you make your choice. The result, ultimately, is prioritization through this step. Are you prioritizing appropriately? Because again, you can't manage time, you can only manage priorities. And so walking it out in this first step to verify that you can get optimal results is the first thing you want to do in this decision making model, which is step 1, the motive. Now, step 2 is impact. Ultimately, you're making a choice, and now you're trying to think, what's the impact of this decision going to be? Is it a big impact? Is it a small impact? Is it a high risk? Is it a low risk? Is it a big reward that could possibly happen, or is it a mediocre or small reward? And what I like to do is to give you something tangible and specific, which is what I call the 3-10 rule. 3 minutes, 3 months, or 3 years. Walking this whole thing out, you're trying to figure out, if I make this decision, how am I going to feel about it in 3 minutes? If I make the decision, how am I going to feel about it in 3 months? If I make this choice with the impact, how am I going to feel in 3 years, 3 decades? But the more you walk that out in that 3-10 rule, you're trying to figure out, how am I going to feel? What will be the impact as I make this decision that could have tremendous impact? Ultimately, what you're trying to do in this particular section or step is to mitigate the risk. You're trying to minimize your downside and give you great upside. So that's step 2, impact. So step 1, motive. Step 2, impact. Step 3, wisdom. What we're trying to do here is to get a full circle picture of what I'm looking at, and it's gathering information. So you're trying to gather information from people that might know that craft and be an expert in that specific space. You might be trying to gather some specific data, what information or facts or data that's out there, whether I'm doing a search on ChatGPT, whether I'm doing a search on Google, whatever it is, what data is available to me to make this wise choice. And then what are the alternatives? What's competition? What's the alternative choice? Is there something that could supplement what it is that I'm doing that could make a better and more wise decision? Because what you're trying to do is to take information and then turn it into wisdom by getting this full circle picture. And just picture that. When you get the full vantage point on something, you can see all angles and sides. It's going to help you make a better and more informed decision. And the final one, which always is my favorite, is act. Now you got to take a step and go. And this is hard for perfectionists to try to just get this right down to the 99 percentile before they act. But as Jeff Bezos says, 70% and go. We really adopt that principle here at the Hyper Debt Fund. But take action, move on it, and then you get to look back as you test things out and see how it goes. A lot of times you'll hear the old, build the plane as we fly it. And what you're trying to do here as a result is velocity. You need to get things moving and fail very fast so you can see how things work or don't work and then make iterations. So this is the model for you to think through and use in your own life, hopefully, as I have as well, to make the best decision and outcome.